Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show, radio to open the heart, heal the soul, awaken the consciousness. Mr. Benny Mathers, how are you doing this morning?
Doing very well, and good morning to you. I dressed up for today's show. You can see
like it.
It's just not a traditional t-shirt. See, I do have a wardrobe that extends further out. I know people are shocked. It's a button down this time.
It looks very good on you.
And I thank you very much. And I went shopping, so I had to treat myself.
You did?
Yeah, of course.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's got a little blue in there. Why? Only because it's day one for Seahawks preseason game. Let's go Hawks.
Whoa, let's go Hawks. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, well, I didn't go shopping, but I could think about it.
Well, sure. Yeah. Oh, virtual shopping? Like, I like that. I like that. I like that. No.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that one. It's easy to overbuy, right?
It can be.
Packages come.
You got to give yourself a little bit of a budget, like anything else, unless you want to just splurge, because people do that too.
That's true. So the Seahawks. Yep. What's going to happen?
I'm like waiting for a question. And I don't know. It's season number 2 for our new head coach, and of course, our old head coach Pete Carroll went to the Las Vegas Raiders. I know we're talking sports on the show today. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. We cover it all.
The gamut, right? But actually, our old coach is now back in town because that's who we're playing tonight for the preseason game. So, of course, it's preseason, doesn't really mean a lot, but it shows kind of like vision for the team this year and all the new characters and drafts and all the good stuff. So, good luck to the Hawks tonight for sure.
Yeah, good luck to the Hawks, and thank you for that view into sports, because I really do appreciate it. I do.
Or you're just like, oh, Benny, hurry up, stop talking about it.
No. I want to know. I know that people put a lot of stock into it. A lot of people watch it. It's really important. I think sports are a very important part of our world, and I'm kind of with you.
Yep, and hopefully our stars are aligned properly for tonight's games.
Well, I've actually been known to send Reiki to the Hawks, so don't tell. Yeah, I was teaching a class one time, and someone asked, she goes, "Could we stop and send?" I was like,
"Why not?
Is that permitted?" I think we can.
Sure.
So we sent them, whatever.
Awesome.
And I don't know that we affected the score, but we had fun doing it anyway.
It'd be fun to go back to look at the game and see what happened.
Yeah. We'll have to do that. Anyway, so I'm Loretta Brown, and I'm the owner of Reiki Oasis, located right here in the greater Seattle area for a long time, like 30 years. You can find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com. What do I have coming up? Well, in August, this is August. On Saturday, August 23rd, I do have my monthly class for women, the Temple of the Divine Feminine, and you can join us in person or via Zoom. And yes, Egypt is happening. My Egypt trip is coming up rapidly, September 30 through October 14. And then we're going to take a little 5-day extension to Jordan. And this is a really special trip. I have room for maybe 2 more people. If you want to get in, send an email to reikioasis@gmail.com. Ask for the itinerary, because I'm starting to close it all down. We're getting all the final details, and it's incredible.
Yeah, because you have to make sure to
walk like an Egyptian.
To have that like a little sound bite, so I can just play it all the time when we're there.
You should put on your ringtone.
Yeah, I'm totally going to do it, Betty. I love it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so let's see what's going on. We've got 5 planets retrograde. Nothing to worry about. Not a thing, right? We have the Lionsgate portal, which celebrates the rising of Sirius, the star Sirius, the sun Sirius, not seriousness. And after weeks of invisibility due to the rays of the sun, the Lionsgate portal is activated by the rising of that star, which takes place from the end of July all the way through the middle of August. A lot of people are actually a little confused about the Lionsgate, and I always point to 8 as that's the Lionsgate. But it's actually just the center of that entire ability to view the star Sirius. And so people grab a hold of it. And I think that it's been turned into maybe an over focus on that one particular day. Sirius is considered our spiritual sun, so the rising and return of Sirius over the horizon was seen by ancient astrologers as the rebirth of our spirit energy and the spirit energy of the planet. The rising of Sirius also corresponds with the rainy season and the flooding of the Nile River, in case I was wanting to put a little ad in there about Egypt again, further supporting the idea of rebirth through the nourishing rain. And some cultures also use the rising of Sirius to signify the start of the new year. It's also, when we think of August 8th, it is 8-8, and that is tomorrow, by the way, the day that we're doing this show. 8-8 represents infinity and DNA activations, allowing us to take this Sirian energy in this time, right, and infuse into the very core of our being. We can also unlock and upgrade the memory of our cells, allowing us to bring more healing, peace, and love into our being. And then August 9th, which I think is Saturday, we have an Aquarius full moon, also known as the sturgeon moon. And this full moon aligns with the asteroid of spirit medicine, Chariklo. Chariklo allows us to connect with nature, to evoke a powerful healing energy. She encourages us to listen to our bodies and use plant medicine for healing. Chariklo and the Aquarian full moon work together to bring a powerful release, which could feel very healing. I keep saying the word healing. This is a very, very good time to really kind of go a little bit deeper into what are the things that you still are unresolved, and maybe that you can come to some sort of completion. We are guided to bring a sense of neutrality to our emotions, honoring that there's no good or bad, there just is. And the full moon helps us, like I said, bring closure to things we've been working on since February of this year. So this is a very cleansing full moon to help us recalibrate as we are entering into eclipse season, because we've got a big eclipse coming up in September. And on the morning of August 10th, which is Sunday, a lot going on, we have a stunning celestial event. 6 planets, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune will align in a graceful arc across the eastern sky just before sunrise. Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn are bright enough to be seen with the naked eye. Uranus and Neptune may require binoculars to see, and you can view them approximately 1 hour before sunrise. Mars is not visible in this alignment because it's too close to the sun right now, so the sun is making it so we can't see it. And this event coincides with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction happening on August 11th to 12th. So a planetary parade while the planets are going retrograde, while there's a full moon in Aquarius, while there's a Jupiter Venus conjunction. What could go wrong, Benny? What?
Do I have to answer that one? I don't like the big R word in general. Retrograde. Okay, we'll just go there.
I do have good news.
Okay, good.
August 11, Mercury goes direct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Okay. All right.
Comes out of retrograde. So that could be good, right? That could be good.
Okay.
Whew. Okay. And then Venus conjunct Jupiter in Cancer is also very magical. This is romantic, soft energy.
Ooh.
This is happening the August 11th through 12th. Right. I know. So we're headed toward it being a little bit better. It's going to activate our feminine side and have us feeling in touch with our beautiful heart energy. Da, da, da. I don't know if you have romantic music. I don't even know what that would be, right?
Not at the ready, however. I mean, we're all romantic in ourselves, and do things for yourselves and treat yourselves and be lovely with yourself. So
that's right. And the softening of the heart, I think, is
Yeah.
something we could use right now. Remember that, you love these people, right?
Of course.
Right? That's right.
Love, exciting and new. There.
Thank you.
There's your song.
I knew I could depend on you. I knew you'd come up with something.
All I got. It's all that popped in there.
That's perfect. Yeah. So we may feel a deepening sense of compassion and love for all that we care about. And the energy may also activate the caretaker within us, allowing us to create beautiful environments in our homes and for our families. So good time for getting together with people. And maybe you could even do it, like if you're going to watch the Seahawks or something, like these energies are not like a light switch on the wall. It's not like it's just today. It's like they're already coming in and then they flow through. So yeah, good. I think it's an exciting week in the skies above us. And I am a cosmic watcher. I remind people we're greater than the stars. We are. I hate to say that. Well, it's just like the weather. You've got to look outside today. It's a little bit cloudy. I'm not sure what's happening out there, but you do. It's good to take a look at things and just say what is influencing me. Is that?
Oh no. Did I lose you? I guess we lost Loretta there for a quick second. What we're going to do here, folks, is take a quick little break. We'll be right back with more from the original Loretta Brown Show.
It's time that you are heard, and I don't mean in just a conversation. I mean really heard. Imagine hosting your very own radio program on...
That is fun. Let's see here. I still have you, Judith, right?
I'm still with you, Benny.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to do is probably just go ahead and... All right, folks, if you're listening to us online, because I know we are still streaming, unfortunately lost Loretta. So what we're going to do is just remove her and then bring her back. Looks like she did that on her own. So, all right, let's do this. These things happen. See, that's why I don't talk about the R word, Judith.
Yes.
Retrograde, not a fan.
Well, I love how there's so much love, compassion, and belonging in the forecast for the skies and the stars. That was wonderful.
Most definitely.
We need it. We need it right now in our world.
For sure. For sure. So I'm looking here. Put some stuff in so I can not have some dead air. And we were talking about that too before the show started. Didn't want that.
You jinxed yourself, Benny.
I know. I gotta stop doing that. Stop talking. Hopefully she can get back in. I don't see her yet. Let's see. She text. Yep. She said computer. She says, hold on. I'm texting her. Here, I can turn my camera back on so everyone can see what's going on. Hello, everybody. Okay.
Technology is great when it works.
Totally. I always, since the pandemic and all that, everyone was, doing all the virtual, sites and stuff like that online. It's great to see the big head honchos, CEOs and all that. And you're like, hey, they're doing it just like we are, makes it all like on a level playing field.
Well, it keeps us humble. We know that artificial intelligence hasn't taken over the world.
Yeah. That is for sure. There's some funny ones though too, though. I mean, after a couple of years of some people doing the virtual, meetings and teachers, because I know my kids and my boys, we had to do a lot of virtual stuff, and some of the outtakes of like I said, some CEO of some big company, like his cat walks behind him, like in the background.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah. And I love the people being interviewed on like the PBS NewsHour, and their dog is on the bed or something.
Yeah. Like,
put your dog in the kitchen.
I know, right? Well,
before the interview begins.
It's either that or they're just going to make noise throughout the whole entire,
Yeah, maybe they'll bark if they're hidden away.
That's what I'm thinking too. All right.
Because the animal is going to steal the show. Nobody's going to listen to what you say with your pet in the background.
Won't be able to take it seriously. Let me see. We might have to do on the phone if she can't get back in. Oh, there she is. Let's bring her back in.
Hey-o.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
All right, let's bring you over here.
Yeah, my computer just shut off.
That's bummer deal. We're still streaming live, so say hi to everybody. We apologize for the inconvenience, but I'm just playing music on the air, so.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep. So do you just want to jump right into it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so stand by.
So, yes, today I am excited. I'm very delighted to welcome Judith Valente, award-winning author, poet, and former correspondent, or maybe she still is a correspondent for PBS and NPR. Judith is a luminous storyteller whose work bridges journalism, spirituality, and contemplative living. In her newest book, The Italian Soul, How to Savor the Full Joys of Life, she takes us on a journey through cobblestone streets, sunlit piazzas, and the soulful rhythms of Italy, a land where beauty, balance, and deep reverence for life still thrive. Drawing from her Italian heritage and years spent exploring its culture, Judith offers timeless lessons in living with greater delight, dignity, and depth. She's going to tell us all about it. I can't wait. And Judith is a sought-after guide who holds the annual Benedictine Footprints Retreat or pilgrimage in lesser-known parts of Italy. She's also president of the International Thomas Merton Society. Judith, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Loretta. I'm honored to be here with you.
I'm honored to have you. I love your book. I love all of your writings. I've had you on the show before, and this is a very heartwarming book, is what I'm going to say. Reading it's a good read, and it's makes you think about all kinds of things in life. So I want to ask you, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this soul. Was there something that happened that made you say to yourself when you got to Italy, I'm home?
Yes, really. I felt that I had found something I had been looking for all of my life. And, for the past decade or more, I've been interested in contemplative spirituality. And what do I mean by that? To have a contemplative attitude toward life is to look for and to see the sacred and the poetic in the ordinary. And I began to see this in everyday living in Italy, in my Italian friends. It seemed to come naturally to them, something in the genes passed on from one generation to the next. And I thought, these people really know how to make an art of living. And I wanted to write about it because it wasn't complicated what I saw. It was things that we could replicate in our own lives here in the US.
So can you give us an example of what you mean by that, right? Because I know you lived over there, you do live over there, you live back and forth, because I know you're in the Midwest right now or somewhere in the middle of the United States. Right.
Right. I'm 2 hours south of Chicago now, lived much of my career in Chicago. But yes, I try to spend as much time as I possibly can under visa rules in Italy. Well, let me give you a simple example. What I really noticed was the reverence for the meal table. The meal table is not a place that you go to wolf down food as quickly as you can and then move on to more important things in your life. No, in Italy, the meal table is really a place of communion. And this, if you come from the Catholic tradition, is going to resonate, of course, with the Eucharistic table, with the altar table at Mass. And so it's really a time to take your time to eat and to enjoy the company that you're with, to enjoy the food that you're with. Food is very important in Italy because it's really a way of showing love. To create a beautiful meal is a way that Italians also show love. So something simple is my husband and I now sit down at the dining room table and eat at least our evening meal, if not our breakfast as well. Sometimes we don't always have breakfast at the same time. But a lot of my friends have young children, and the children are all eating at different times because one has soccer, one has ballet, or they're not eating the same thing because one likes this, one likes that. But, in Italy, it's important to sit down all at the same time and really enjoy the meal as a time of communion with both family and friends.
When I grew up, and I'm from Pendleton, Oregon, so I always tell people I'm from Pendleton, and my mom was raised over in that area, and I was raised with the idea that the evening meal, we sat down and ate the evening meal together as much as possible. And then Sunday was the big thing, because you went to church and then you came and we usually had, pot roast or something, but everybody came over. Yeah.
A Sunday meal in Italy is still rather sacrosanct. What you find is a lot of extended families still in the same town, often in the same neighborhood, sometimes in the same house. And of course, being an Italian American, it's how I grew up. My aunt and uncle lived upstairs, and then my grandparents would come part of the year and also live upstairs. But my cousin lived across the street, and that's kind of how we grew up. And Sundays we would often get together with cousins, aunts, and uncles. Well, it's hard in our extremely mobile American society to do that. I'm not saying everybody has the opportunity to have this Sunday meal together, but everybody has the opportunity to do what I call honoring the Sabbath, keeping the Sabbath holy. And if I may tell you a little story about how I came to this conclusion, with a little help from my friend's Italian mother, I was invited to a Sunday dinner by my Italian teacher in Italy. And of course, her parents were also at the meal. My husband and I, her parents, and she and her husband. And I usually write a column for medium.com on Sundays and also Facebook. And I hadn't finished my column yet. So I brought my computer along to the lunch thinking, I'll just get a little writing in before the meal begins. So I pull out my computer and put it on the coffee table and start typing. And I see my friend's Italian mother looking at me kind of askance. And I looked up and I said, I'm just trying to finish some writing before the meal begins. And she stared at me and said, "It's Sunday." And so I closed the computer down, put it out of sight for the rest of the day. And the real lesson came also later when we had this lovely, probably 2-hour meal, midday meal. Then we all went for a long leisurely walk along the Adriatic. And I finished my column later in the day, but still in time to get it out. And it taught me that I could take time for my friends, take time to enjoy a meal, take time to live, and still get my work done. And for that, I have my friend's little Italian mother to thank.
Oh, I love that story so much. There's a lot in that. I was thinking when you were talking that, we do have a tendency, especially here. I don't know if America is peculiar for it, but it does seem like we just go, 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 go. And do we ever take a day off? Right.
Right. Something I talk about in the book is that only about 40% of Americans take their full allotment of vacation time. And in Italy, people get literally 5 weeks of vacation. And often they're taking it the same month. They're taking the month of August off. And, that would be so unthinkable here in the United States for a vast number of people to take the same month off of work. And yet it works. It works in Italy. People work. They work hard. They just don't live to work. They work to live. And the proof in the pudding is that Italy is Europe's third largest economy. It's not, we joke about la dolce vita, the sweet life in Italy, and il dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing, as if Italians are sitting around all the time doing nothing. And that's not the case. There's numerous family-owned businesses. Italy is a leader in the manufacture of clothing, the production of food and wines. I mean, we could think of lots of things, cars that come from Italy. So they work. They just don't live to work.
And if I also understand correctly, they have a longer lifespan. I think there's a blue zone area over there, for people that know about blue zones. But yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Corsica has, which is part of Italy, is an island, has one of the longest lifespans. And Italians in general have one of the longest lifespans in the world and the second longest in Europe, second only to Switzerland. Now, do you know what the United States is?
No, I hate to ask.
Life expectancy, we're number 48 in the world.
Oh.
I mean, as an advanced country, we're number 48. We are behind Panama, Albania, and the Czech Republic.
Oh, okay.
So, so much for thinking everything we do here is so smart and so, advanced, that we can learn a few things from some other countries.
I want you to go back to something that you said and then kind of bring out more of, because you're hitting all around it. You're actually saying, but you said something earlier that when you came to Italy, you found what you were all seeking. Like you went way out on a big walkabout and then came back to Italy. I want you to talk more about what it is that you really found. And then also, and you're also doing it, the lifestyle, what you find in Italy, how we crazy Americans, right, can really take everything that you're saying and integrate that into our lives in a more contemplative way, or in living life in a different way. I think you know exactly what I'm asking.
Yes, and both of your questions are actually related. You ask, what did I find? I found this sense of community over there that I feel has been slipping away in the past decade in our country. I could walk out into the piazza, and after 3 or 4 days of coming out of my apartment at the same time every day, people would start to talk with me, and they would come up to me, and then they would invite me to their house for a coffee. This was routine. This was not a one-off thing. And I remember thinking how hard it is for me to get together with friends in the United States. Somebody is off to Florida for 3 months. Somebody else is busy watching grandchildren. Somebody else is busy with a work project if they're still in the workplace. And my friendships in America remind me of a famous New Yorker cartoon where you see a man on the telephone and he's looking down at his date book and he's saying to the person on the other end of the phone, "No, Thursday's out. How about never? Is never good for you?" And it seems sometimes like I feel like I'm in that New Yorker cartoon when I'm trying to get together with friends. But it was very easy to make friends in Italy. And there's a real interest in people. I mean, here we've gotten so afraid of the stranger, the person who comes from another culture or another country. I mean, I was just reading about an ad that's put out by Homeland Security and saying, trying to recruit people, saying, put away these terrible criminals, as if everybody who enters this country as an immigrant is a criminal, and that just is simply not true. So in Italy, there's this sense of interest in other people, curiosity about other people, and genuinely liking other people. I'll give you another example. There was an article at NPR not long ago about a man writing a book about walking from New York to Washington, D.C. And somewhere, I think it was in Maryland, he went up to a person who was standing in front of his house. It was a hot day, and said, "Do you know where I can get a cold bottle of water?" And the man said, "Oh, just go 2 blocks that way and you'll find a convenience store." Now, in Italy, they would give you a drink of water from their own faucet, or their own, they would come out with a bottle of water. I mean, what is the big deal about giving somebody a drink of water? So that's the kind of thing that I found what I was looking for. And one of the first times I spent 3 months in a stretch in Italy, it was 2021. It was still there was still some COVID restrictions, and people were still wearing masks and social distancing. And on the bus to the airport, there was this man who simply refused to put on his mask. And the bus driver had to stop the bus and say, sir, unless you put your mask on, I cannot continue on to the airport. That was sort of the attitude, that I'm going to do what I want to do and heck with everybody else. Well, I got to Italy, everybody wore their mask. There was, when you went to church on Sunday, there were dots on the pews to show you, how to sit, how far apart to sit from somebody. Nobody complained. People brought little containers of hand sanitizer, and right before communion, they would pull it out, sanitize their hands, and then offer their bottle to the person next to them or behind them. I mean, it was a beautiful show of community, and really saying we're in this together, where we had that kind of nonsense where people were simply refusing to wear masks, et cetera, et cetera.
I love what you just said. We're in this together. Our world is so divisive, and I feel like it's gotten more divisive and angry. Everybody's angry. And also this idea that that's a stranger, stranger danger, right? Bad person is a stranger. And I think that while you're talking, and one of the things your book did for me, like there is a longing, I think, in my heart also for that community again. When I grew up, I am of an age, we're probably of an age, Judith, and we didn't lock our doors, we didn't lock our cars. And I remember one time we were going to take a trip to see grandma, and mom was leaving the house, and she says, oh, I think I'll just leave it unlocked in case somebody needs food or shelter, they can use the house.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it never happened
right?
Today. Yeah.
No, there was no thought that it'd be vandalized or burglarized or that it was dangerous. And so we times have changed to a certain extent, but perhaps there is a calling or a longing in our soul, all of us, to return to something that you're speaking about so eloquently in your book, right?
And it's not as if Italy hasn't had an influx of refugees and immigrants, which is what we seem to be so exercised about right now in our country. Mm-hmm. And most of the immigrants are coming from North Africa, a lot of them, and from Muslim countries. So you have people who are of a different color, of a different religion, entering into a country where people are basically one color, one religion. And Italy has had to try to figure out how to absorb it. But I look for the little signs in, Loretta, of how life is lived. And something that really impressed me was you would often see, even in small towns, some of the refugees from North Africa standing in front of the pharmacy or the supermarket, kind of begging, okay?
Yeah.
And I noticed that what Italians would do would be to give them a couple of euros, but they would say, have a coffee. It wasn't like they were saying, oh, here's some money because I'm rich and you're poor and I have and you don't have. It wasn't like that at all. It was like, have a coffee. And I thought that was very telling about the Italian character, not wanting to embarrass anybody or, act like I'm better than you or something like that.
Yeah, I think that statement embodies a whole lot of things. So yeah, not to embarrass, but also here, just have a coffee. It's very human also, yes. Right? Brings it down to the living level. Just have some coffee or, whatever you need to do with this money, right?
Yeah, and that's, that's what I found myself doing then when I would see people. I would say, have a coffee. And also there's a thing in Italy where sometimes people will, we don't do this very much here, but they will buy a coffee for somebody in a cafe and just have it sent over. And I think it's called cafe sorpresa, or sorpreso rather, more accurately, a surprise coffee. And they'll do that. And I think that's another lovely little tradition as well that you see in some of the small towns in Italy.
I also love what you were talking about, that when you come out, people start to talk to you. Right. Yeah, because I do that, like at my store. I always go through and I say hi, and at I also noticed that a lot of times people look at you like, what's with you? Right.
Yes.
And and then after a period of time, like the checkout people, they say hi and they know who I am. Right. And I live in, Seattle. So, it's a big area, but you can do that in your local community. You can begin to, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
say it's very difficult to be anonymous in Italy, and we as Americans we seem to appreciate our anonymity. We appreciate our privacy circle. For example, I grew up in the New York area, even though I live in Illinois now. But the tables would be so close in the restaurants, you could knock knees with the person next to you. But you rarely, if ever, struck up a conversation.
Yeah.
It just wasn't done. It would be an invasion of privacy. Well, that would never happen in Italy. And I'll give you another example. I used to go to Mass, evening Mass. I love the Catholic Mass in Italy,
Yeah.
just love
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
in Italian, but I could
Yeah.
follow along. And these two women came up to me one time and they said, "Who are you?" That was the opening line. "Who are you?" And then they added, "We see you every day. Where are you going?" And this, thus, and so. But it wasn't nosiness. It was just being friendly and being
Yeah.
curious about another person. And it ended up, they saw me every day. They wondered if I was living there, was I visiting, do I have relatives in the town? And then they ended up inviting me to go to the park with them to take the air, prendere l'aria, as they say, to take the air. And I wasn't able to do it that day, but it wasn't something that was really off-putting. It was kind of nice in a way.
Why is it that Italian is so beautiful? Like when you say it, I'm like, just keep talking.
Yeah, it's a romance language. It's
Yeah.
built on vowels, and it is. There's a reason many of the most famous operas are in Italian, because it truly is a beautiful language, and it's not a hard language. English, I think, is really hard. My first foreign language was French, and French was much harder, I think, to learn than Italian has been. Yeah.
So I want to talk a bit about beauty,
Yes.
right? The effects of beauty and quality. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Quality is huge in Italy, and there's an expression, you'll love this Italian expression: poco ma buono.
Poco ma
Little,
buono.
poco ma buono, little but
Buono.
good. And the idea is, buy less if you have to, but higher quality pasta, or buy buy fewer articles of clothing, but higher quality that will last longer. Same with shoes. And there's a sense of the aesthetic there that's very important. You just don't run around in Italy in tattered clothes unless you really want to be known as an American. Run around in your running suit and your you know uh, torn t-shirt and all that kind of stuff. It's just not done. The impression that you leave with other people is very important, and there's another important expression in Italian: fare bella figura. Fare bella figura, to make a good figure. Colloquially, you could say to make a good impression.
Yeah.
And it's very important because it's a culture lived outside. People live in these cramped apartments and these narrow houses, and so people spend a lot of time outside, and they're seeing and they're being seen, and they really try to look their best, and I appreciate that very much about the Italian culture. And I try to dress up. I try to dress like an Italian when I'm there. And then the other aspect is these, little surprise places that you'll find beauty. You'll find it in an ornate iron gate, or a stone archway, or you're walking along and all of a sudden there's this fresco on a building, and you wonder, what the heck is that doing there? Who painted it and why did they paint it there? But it's all in the cause of beauty, of creating beauty. And so you asked, Loretta, a good question before. Well, how do we incorporate this into our lives? Well, I think a good practice for us is to think about, well, how can we how can we promulgate beauty wherever
Yes.
we are?
Yes.
What does our lawn look like, for example? What
Dry right now.
What is our, well, yeah, I guess that's all over right now. But what does our garden look like? What does the front of our house look like? How can we create beauty for people to see? So that's really important in Italy. I mean, it's almost a joke. Like a friend of mine who's a priest was telling me that he had told the Italian pastor of a church, to put a yellow strip by the altar so people weren't tripping over the altar step. And the pastor's like, "Oh, no, that would not be aesthetic. No, we can't put a yellow line on that stone step."
Yeah, I want you to just make a comment or two about what is the importance of beauty in our, I'm going to say maybe as a spiritual practice, or what does it do to us? Because honestly, I drive around and they're doing a lot of building here, and every building is just a big square box, right? And even my son has said, I wish they could build something aesthetically beautiful, right?
Yes,
But
you're so right, Loretta.
yeah.
I think the thing about beauty is it connects us with the divine.
Mm.
It connects us with the sacred. And think about why these churches were built to be so beautiful.
Yeah.
Think about when you go into Notre Dame Cathedral, for example, and you
Yes.
see those beautiful rose windows. You're almost awestruck. Yeah. And you have a sense of the sacred, the divine. The same thing when you go into the Vatican and you see that beautiful statue of Michelangelo's, the Pietà. And you look at that and it's just pure beauty. And it really does connect us somehow to God and the sacred.
I've always been incredibly sensitive to what I say is beauty and harmony, like that. And I am also a person who will sit and just look at something, like stare at something. Like when I was a kid, I used to lay on the ground and just stare at the sky, right? Sky gazing. Right. But I will do that. And we have some, St. Mark's Cathedral here in Seattle. We've got some beautiful places to go, but even nature itself. And I just am a firm believer that I think sometimes it's the medicine we need. It's the antidote for the chaos or the harshness, is that beauty. And in my opinion, Italy has so much beauty. And of course, the art and the music, I'm just, can't get enough of that. But it's definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a friend who had a serious cancer. And one of the things she talked about was feeling so fortunate to have a room that had a window that looked out on the sky.
Yeah.
And I think, beauty doesn't mean you have to buy a very expensive painting by a famous artist. It means just being aware of those small moments that are around you. I mean, look at the birds. Just look at the birds sometimes.
Yeah.
And stop and take a look at a geranium. Really, really look at it. A hydrangea. How beautiful these colors are. So beauty is really all around us if we look for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about how the Italians, how do they honor their dead? How do they deal with death? Things like that.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the places that tourists ought to go when they visit an Italian city is the local cemetery, because they are so interesting. People are buried above ground in Italy in crypts. They're not put in the ground because of the threat of earthquakes. And so you will find grave sites that are almost like an extension of people's homes. You'll find items there that meant something to the person who died, and often there are very touching phrases engraved on the gravestone, as well as pictures. You often see pictures of the people engraved in the gravestone. And on one gravestone that belonged to the mother of a friend of mine, it said, as if the mother was talking from beyond, "I will love you from the heavens as I loved you on earth."
Oh.
Isn't that beautiful? And that's what her family sees every time they go and see her gravestone.
Oh.
And another place, another cemetery I visited around Christmas, and people brought decorated Christmas trees to the grave sites for their loved ones. So there is also a sense of the dead being still with us. Catholics, it comes from the Catholic culture of Italy. We talk about the communion of saints, the community of witnesses gone before us. Like the people are still with us, just not in their physical form. And that's very evident in Italy, where every December 31st, almost every church will have a ringraziamento service, a Thanksgiving service, ringraziamento. And each person who died that year in the community is mentioned by name. And so it's a sense that every person in the community, whether they were a doctor, a lawyer, a journalist, a tuttofare, what they call a tuttofare, a handyman, a do everything, that person that person's absence leaves a tear in the fabric of the community. And that person is to be remembered, and by name. And I thought that service was so beautiful on December 31st.
While you're talking, I'm thinking about how, these are, they're the ties that bind us. They're the things that create community, but also this idea of belonging. So many people feel lost. They've disconnected from families, or they've moved all over the world, or they've done this, or they're no longer talking with each other. But this lineage idea is what's really coming through to me when you're talking, and belonging. Yes. I belong here. You belong here.
Yes, yeah. I think there's a lot of socializing that goes on in Italy that maybe we've lost. We have nice cafes. Starbucks are lovely places to go, but think about the last time you were in Starbucks. What did you see? You saw a lot of people on their individual cell phones or their iPads. They're not engaging in conversation with each other. And in Italy, it's very common for people to show up at the same time every day at the same cafe. And so it becomes a way of forming community. When Mother Teresa came to this country, she made an astute observation when she came first time to this country. She said, the great American illness is not cancer or heart disease. It's loneliness. Yeah. And the former Surgeon General of the US recently wrote a book in which he talks about the epidemic of loneliness in our country, particularly among the elderly and among young people under the age of 25. And that's truly, truly tragic, I think, Loretta. I mean, I really think we need to pay attention to that.
I like absolutely. I absolutely do experience what you just said. In fact, I was over at Starbucks the other day, and literally every single person in line had their head down in their phone, and even people are ordering on their phone while they're standing in line. And I have clients that come to me all the time talking about being lonely and where can they meet people. And I'm thinking, well, I wish I could say go to your local coffee shop, but unfortunately, it's an opportunity missed as far as I'm concerned, right? Yeah.
Well, what if it starts with each one of us? Each one of us walking into a Starbucks and trying to strike up a conversation with somebody who's sitting alone. Or, as you mentioned, the grocery store. That's a place where people are encountering each other all the time. It might be an opportunity to strike up some conversations with people. And who knows, you might find out somebody is your neighbor, or they live around the corner from you. Who knows? But I'm not saying this to simply criticize, but to say that we all can do better about building community.
Yeah. And we are social creatures. I talk to people about this all the time, and I'm with you. I'm not trying to criticize, just trying to pull some points out, because we're at a time where I think we need each other's support more than ever, and a kind a gentle smile, a face, a familiar face, being able to talk or to know that people are okay. I even crossed the line when you'll laugh because you'll get it, everyone listening, here in the States, if there's a table and there's a person sitting there and there's empty chairs, people won't sit with them. And I crossed the line and simply said, could I sit here? And it was a man, and he said, sure. And we did end up striking up a conversation. It was just a casual little conversation. But I thought, you know what? We don't have to do that, but we could. And yeah. So it's a beginning, is what I think. It's a beginning. It's a remembering of something that I think our souls are longing to remember. I want to ask you a question, and what brought you into the contemplative life in the first place?
Well, I'll make an admission. I often say that I suffer from a dual diagnosis: workaholism and overachieverism. And I lived that way most of my life. I mean, I worked for the Washington Post when I was 21 years old. I was hired by the Washington Post. Then I went to the Wall Street Journal. Then I went to PBS TV. And all these are high pressure, high functioning type jobs. And my life was my work for many, many years. And I didn't pay enough attention to my inner life, Loretta, which is something you talk about all the time. And so, I realized at a certain point that something had to change in my life. I mean, I was terribly lonely, and I had a lot of friends, but as I say, you couldn't always get together with everybody because everybody else was busy too. So I ended up visiting a monastery of all places, a Benedictine monastery in Atchison, Kansas, in the heart of the heartland of America. And monasteries are all about community. That's what they're there for. They're there to build a community of believers, to pray for the rest of us, to gather for prayer. That's their main function. And I stepped in there feeling like I had found something that I was looking for, because there's a lot of silence in monasteries. You have to be alone with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, I was just running on this treadmill, and that I needed time when I could simply be quiet and still and simply be, not doing. And so that was kind of the start of it, my interest in monastic spirituality, or what some people would call contemplative spirituality. Means the same thing.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Absolutely love it. And we have similar backgrounds, trying to find what I call I found what I'm searching for too, which is the ability to go to that quiet place within and create what I call my inner oasis, and then helping other people be able to find that in the middle of the day. You can always stop by the oasis, right? That's the way that works. And I know you understand that. Yeah.
Yes,
very much so.
I think one reason many of us had a problem with the pandemic was because we were, self-isolating. We were staying, what was it called? Staying in place, or whatever it was called.
And I think that was it. Yeah.
And people didn't know how to be alone with themselves, and they couldn't stand it. But I think that was a healthy thing for us as a culture, to learn how to be alone with ourselves.
Yeah.
Alone with our thoughts, alone with what is important, having to realize what's important to us.
Well, I think it was I think you're absolutely right. I have a funny sense of humor, and I'm like, I feel like Mom sent us all to our room and said, come out when you can behave yourself or something. And I don't know, like we're still kind of coming out the other end of that and trying to figure who we are and what's going on. I wanted to ask you, have you brought home with you either some sort of a spiritual practice or a daily practice from Italy that really helps you, or any contemplative practice that helps you?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the dinner table, reverencing the sanctity of the dinner table, but also the importance of taking pauses within our day, which is what you talk about with your Oasis ministry or practice.
Yeah.
It's important to take pauses within the day, to simply, if you're working, look out the window, take a 10-minute pause. We used to call them coffee breaks, but all you do is go to the coffee room in that case. I say, take a walk, look out the window. I also try to put a limit on how long I work. I used to work, until I couldn't work anymore, at the end of the day, until I was ready to collapse. But now, I set a time limit, say 5:30. It's easier when the days get shorter, because 5:30 it's starting to get dark, and you realize it's the end of, you have more of a sense of the ending of the day. But I really like to set a time limit, and then that's it. That's it for being on the computer. That's it for looking at email, and that helps me. Those periodic pauses during the day,
Yes.
and setting a limit as to when I'm going to quit work. I mean, I guess it was easier when we punched clocks, because then
you were watching the clock
you were
then.
watching the clock.
Right. So my guest, Judith Valente, her book, The Italian Soul, How to Savor the Full Joys of Life. You really, really, really just need to get the book and read it. It'll help you so much. Judith, what's your website?
It's Judith Valente. Let me see. What is it? www.judithvalente.com.
Good. And find Judith and read all of her other books. And Judith, it's been such a delight to have you here today. Thank you so very much. From my heart to yours.
My
Lots
heart
of love.
to yours.
Yes. And everybody out there, be nice. Go Hawks. Thank you, Betty Mathers. You're the best.